board meeting to order, so I'll please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please call the roll.
Trustee Hudson?
Here.
Trustee Maravka?
Here.
Trustee Richards?
Here.
Trustee Sandberg?
Here.
Trustee Sluse?
Here.
Trustee Sturba?
Here. So we have a quorum. Public comments.
Hello, Ed Nelson. Haven't been up here in a while. I've had, recent weeks, a bunch of people come up to me and ask me if I could, want to talk, because they know I come to the meeting, about gas prices in Peatone. Why are they so high? Or I should say, how come they dropped so fast in the last week when they were high before? We don't necessarily need an answer tonight, but if you could, you or the board could give us some type of answer. In the summer, we were almost the lowest for the area, including Beecher and Mantino, Mantino, which is unusual, and of course Grant Park's always different counties, different areas. Champagne's cheaper, I don't care, Indiana's cheaper. But we were cheap for a while, maybe a few weeks, 5 weeks or so. And then everybody started dropping and we were at $3.69 for a long time. And everybody else dropping everything. And I looked Thursday on Gas Buddy, a great app. Where'd I go? We were still high. Even Cook County was under Peatone, which is crazy. Then the Peatone Travel Center opened on Friday. I saw your picture on social media. I went over there. $3.29. I'm like, wow, this is great. It's 40 cents cheaper than everything else. Well, son of a gun, the next day, Shell is able to hit that $3.29. And Casey's came down. The other ones came down some. Now everybody's cheap, but even Beecher is at $2.59, I think. So they're still 50 cents cheaper than us.
So Ed, you know that we don't control the
I
prices.
know,
There's
but
no
why
tax.
it-
There's no tax that we apply that nobody else does. You know what I'm
It's
saying?
just why, I mean,
I mean, you
everybody
need to go
wants
talk to
to-
the business owners. It's because it's a free country. You can charge,
You
know,
can charge
people can
anything.
charge whatever they want.
and I've heard where Speedway sets a price and everybody calls Speedway, and I've heard, you know, BP is family owned. We wanna spend our money in Peatone. I mean, I hope most people do.
Sure.
Everywhere in Peatone, I hope they're spending it everywhere. But I hear a lot of people go out of town to get their gas, and if they're screwing us, stop screwing us. It came down so fast, it seemed, once the travel station opened.
Well,
So,
hopefully they listen to these meetings and we'll read your comments in the paper and maybe they'll do something
hope
about
so.
it. But as the village, you understand, we can't control prices.
right, I know you guys aren't controlling
Of any
it,
business.
just, we don't control it either. It seems like where, you know, here where, oh, we've got high volume at this station, we're making more money, we could lower our prices, or whatever.
Okay.
It just doesn't seem like it's happening in
All right.
Peatone, and
You got anything else then for us?
that's about it. Merry
Okay.
Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. All right, any other public comment? All right, if not, I want to, instead of going right to consent agenda, Chief, I'd like you to come forward and you've got a special presentation today, I understand?
Sure. So, one of the ththings the officers want to do is they want to do a no shave November, and they did mustaches. I didn't shave anything, but they did mustaches, and then they had they all donated money towards a cause, and then if they already had a beard and a mustache, and they had to pay extra, so they didn't have to shave it, so they were able to keep it. So the officers all donated money towards it, and then they voted on who had the best mustache, and Jake, if you come up front here, since you won. This is what happens when you win a contest around here.
They break his leg.
Yep, officers can come up. So they all voted, and they voted to give money to adopt a soldier. So, Sue, if you'd like to come up and receive your check and take a picture with the officers, if you don't mind. Somebody want to help Jake hand her the check?
Oh boy, oh boy.
Yeah.
Where do we want me?
Yeah,
Oh my.
Go there, turn around. There you go.
So, and then
Chief.
Loretta also joined in with us too.
Squeeze.
I didn't grow a mustache or.
But
And then face me.
You just look over here real quick.
Shoulders back. Shoulders back. And one more. Okay. All set. Thank you.
So if you just wanted to just say something real quick about what you do.
I'm like, I don't usually get emotional, but I don't know, just seeing all you guys and what you do for so many, and that you chose us, it's like heroes choosing heroes, and I appreciate that. For those of you who don't know, I'm with Adopt a Soldier, and things aren't real good for our military right now. And Chief knows firsthand, he's got a son who is in the military, and so Adopt a Soldier has really been ramping up with our care packages. And I'll tell you, this is gonna help so much. Peatone has just always stepped up. The school stepped up this year. Every year they color and decorate the insides of the boxes. So I'm just very overwhelmed, and I'm very thankful.
Thanks for all you
Thank
do.
you.
You can't take that to the bank. Keep your check, but I don't think the bank will accept it.
Thank you guys so much. You got him?
Pretty.
No, we want you to fall down and hurt yourself.
Again.
No, that's not fair.
Again.
Yeah, but you'll find out, don't worry.
Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
All right, moving on to the consent agenda, we've got our minutes from the November 13th, 2023 village board meeting. We've got our payroll and accounts payable, and we want to approve the 2024 regular village board meeting schedule. And there's also a new business registration for Dunkin' Donuts out at the Travel Center. The payroll, we've got 2 pay periods. The one ending November 17th was a total of $60,024.78. The one ending 11/25 was for $59,789.68. Actually, we have another one ending 12/7. That was for $24,086.03. And then accounts payable. Again, we had 2 periods. The one period ending November 24th had general fund $55,057.15. Building permit escrow fund of $3,525. Capital improvement fund $3,472.50. The business development district $21,395.50. And TIF 2 fund of $97,898.75 for a total of $181,348.90. And then the period ending December 8th, general fund $132,582.92, building permit escrow fund $4,325, and the business development district fund of $5,929.03 for a total of $142,836.95. So, are there any items that any trustees would want to remove from the consent agenda? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion?
Second.
Moved by trustee Maravka, second by trustee Sluse.
Trustee Hudson?
Yes.
Trustee Maravka?
Yes.
Trustee Richards?
Yes.
Trustee Sandberg?
Yes.
Trustee Sluse?
Yes.
Trustee Sturba?
Yes.
All right, moving on to staff committee reports. We had a few committee meetings, so trustee Hudson, why don't you give us an update on the AOC meeting and the building committee meeting?
Okay. Administrative Oversight Committee met on November 29th. On the agenda was review proposal from the retail coach, and then to discuss economic development strategy needs for the future growth. As far as the retail coach, this is a company that gave a presentation of services. The company president, Aaron Farmer, gave that presentation. This is a company that does retail market analysis and provides recruitment services for retail businesses and restaurants. The company has served 850 communities in 42 states with a 90% repeat client rate. The goals and objectives of that proposal were to identify retail gaps and growth opportunities, determine Peaton's unique viable retail market potential, identify key retail and restaurant targets that align with vision for growth, recruit targeting retailers and restaurants through proactive outreach efforts and retail conference presentations. This is something that we've had past administrations work with as far as doing studies on the types of retail that may fit into our area. In the past, they have tried to take it on themselves, actually reach out to businesses through letters and stuff like that, and we really didn't have a whole lot of success. This goes back 7 to 10 years ago. So we're kind of looking at this again. Our committee does feel the need to have a qualified consultant to be successful with something like this. However, there's a proposal and there's money involved, and that's something that we'll have to look at going forward and see if we can work it into our budget to move forward. We will need to identify and provide inventory of vacant buildings and available properties to coincide with something like this, if and when we would do it next year possibly. Also, we did take a look at talked about the 1% prepared food and beverage tax that we spoke of before. The staff is preparing an ordinance for this, and that will be coming probably beginning or sometime next year. The businesses that are affected by this will be notified well in advance, and again, this is a useful revenue with less burden to our residents. That's it.
And then
We had, we also had a building committee meeting. Notes on that. The building committee met on December 5th, and the discussion was potential to create a district in the downtown that determines and regulates design requirements for building exterior. We discussed possibility of renovation and facade programs. And then we did go back again to something that was started years ago through planning and zoning. It was called the Old Peatone Town Center Overlay District. The background and mission of that was Central Peatone exhibits a mix of building types and architectural styles generally constructed over a number of decades. Significantly, many of the original structures are still in place. The challenge for Peatone's Old Town District will be to attract and blend new vibrant development within the historic context of the village. On the one hand, the historic character of the downtown has remained, but the absence of new development speaks to the overall slow growth of Peatone and the relative geographic isolation of the downtown. The mission to get a document that serves as a policy guide for physical improvements and development within the study area, serve as a marketing tool to promote the downtown and residential neighborhoods to help attract desirable new investment and development in the area. The goal: high quality physical environment that reflects the downtown's character and historic function, family oriented storefronts at the street level wherever possible, a planning framework that encourages development of secondary and transitional areas that are compatible in scale and form in the downtown area that is inviting to pedestrians and families. What this would be is, this would be like a layover of a certain area that would incorporate the downtown as well as some of the neighboring blocks around the downtown. I think when it was done originally, it was 12 or 15 blocks that we were looking at. At the time, I do remember, the administration at the time just, they didn't move forward with anything, and it just kind of sat there, but we still have the work that was put into it, and we can pick that back up now and take a look at what we can do in the downtown area. Now, it's hard to tell folks what they can or can't do with their property, but if we can take a look at it and have guidelines, we can look at what can be enforced and maybe what can be under ordinance to make sure that, the downtown in that area develops in the way that we see. That's it.
Good. And I think one of the things that is important for that downtown overlay is our current zoning for business for B1. We have certain setbacks for buildings and parking requirements that a new building downtown couldn't possibly meet those guidelines. So we want to make it so that if somebody does want to invest something new downtown, that be able to happen without too much trouble. So
Yeah, so we'd have to look at that and we'd have to put it in the ordinance.
yeah. Good. All right. Well, next a good time for Christmas in the Village report. Why don't you tell us your success story?
Yeah, we had more people show up this year than last year, and a lot more people for the parade. So, big improvement from last year. And then I know next year is our 10-year, so we're looking at expanding and doing something really big for a 10-year. Probably a couple more blocks, more entertainment and stuff. So, but I know for me and the rest of the committee, we want to thank all the residents and the business owners and all the supporters that without them and the support and all the donations that we wouldn't be able to do it. So. We want to thank them and everything, and then I think we'll have our next meeting here pretty soon, next month I believe, and then we'll go ahead and start for the 10th year anniversary next year.
Yeah, and I just want to personally thank you, Nick, and Tammy does a lot with that, and the whole committee for doing a great job with this. I appreciate it.
Yep, good job.
Yeah.
Yep, thank you. Yeah, Tammy and Vicky and Stephanie, all those guys, they were all up there. They all did a lot at the high school. It was truly a group effort.
Great. Good deal. All right. Moving on, Bob, you got a report?
Yeah. I want to announce real quick, leaf collection is over. December 1st. We're done.
So what do you suggest if people have piles of leaves? Should they?
I was just gonna ask.
What are the alternatives? They can buy bags at the
but we
store,
might
right?
be past the
No,
deadline.
you can't. They won't pick it up anymore. They're
My-
done like November 28th or the 29th too.
Break out the mower and mulch them.
Okay.
That's what I recommend. That's the easiest.
Free fertilizer.
Yeah.
Don't dump them in a ditch.
So that's pretty typical. December 1st is when you stop, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I mean,
Yeah, we
hopefully,
gotta switch equipment over, get ready for snow season.
Okay.
So staff, snow equipment's ready to roll. Everything's been checked out. We're ready. Just gotta snow. I wish for that, but not anymore. Banners are up. You'll see the lights wrapped around downtown. Also, kind of leaf collections put us behind, so staff will be getting back to GIS input, things like that. I'll be working on MFT, what I want to pay for next year, so that's coming for the budget. That's what I got for that.
okay.
I do have Troy's report. I'll share
I also have the same thing mostly. We're waiting on D to put in the raised reflective pavement markers, so they still need to do that. They didn't really give us a date when they're going to do it, but the weather's nice, so you think they get out there and do it. Streetscape will go out to bid next week, so that's on track to be the 21st. And MFT, the sidewalk, there is still a few punch list items that still need to be addressed. So all in all though, most of it is complete, just punch list items, few. That's all I got.
Good.
Merry Christmas. All of you.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One more item, we talked about Northern Illinois Gas doing some relocation work.
Correct.
And I just got an email today saying that it's been approved by their engineers and should get started, although they shut down the last 2 weeks of the year, so it might not be till January or February, so. Okay, so just so you know.
Oh, and one more thing to add. I know I always say this. I always say leaves. Now we're on. If you do your driveway, please don't place the snow on the road. There's a law against it. You are liable for damages, or if anybody is hurt hitting the snow, the homeowner is liable. So please don't place it in the road. Thank you.
Sides of your.
And you risk getting a ticket for doing that.
Thank you.
They'll just push it back in the driveway.
Yeah.
All right,
Coming over.
moving on. Chief, you got anything else to report?
Yes, a few things. So, I gave everybody my report, but since the report, I don't know if you saw that, but we have an officer who, injured himself, not on duty, off duty. So I'm gonna be working on the schedule, changing a bunch, and my intention is to, cause it's December, that means I've been here a year, which doesn't seem like that's possible, but that went really quick. So I wanna do a year-end report. I did a 6 month, so I'd like to get to you by the January meeting, but I'm gonna be working the street probably a little more than now that we have an officer, so I'm gonna, maybe not the first meeting, but I'll try by the second meeting in January to get you a year-end report of similar to the 6 month one, but a little more in depth, because I've learned a few more things in the last 6 months than I did in the first 6 months. And I'm sure if I stay here longer, I'll keep learning more. But that's pretty much it right now, unless you guys had a question on what I presented you.
I can't believe it's been a year already.
Yeah, December, you
Crazy.
guys made me a chief here, so.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right.
Thank you. Thanks.
I have to go over some paperwork with him if it's okay, Mayor.
Sure.
I'll be right here if you need anything.
Okay. Administrator's report?
I wanted to point out from my paper report that there's a planning and environmental linkage study being conducted, an open house is being conducted for that for Wilmington Peatone Road at the high school on December 13th. So the county executive's office got a grant. They weren't necessarily planning on studying Wilmington Peatone Road for widening or other safety improvements, but she got this grant, and so they've hired a consultant, and they're studying Wilmington Peatone Road all the way from 53 all the way to Drexler. So it's hugely important, and it's a huge impact for Peatones. So if you want to give them some input on your experiences or what you think might be good for them to take into account, it's 4:30 to about 6, open house at the high school on December 13th.
Great.
The blood drive for 2024, we've got all the dates, so just look for posts on that, but it'll have to be at the Legion because the fire department is going to be under construction. So we're going to just move it over to the Legion until they're all done with their build.
Okay, great. There was a report from our building administrator and also our treasurer. Those were in your packet. If you have any questions, just let them know. I think that's it. No other committee reports, I don't believe. On to my comments. Again, I want to commend the police department for doing the No Shave November and donating to Adopt a Soldier. Again, I just want to reiterate the Christmas in the Village and the parade and the tree lighting. Everything went off really well this weekend. We were blessed with great weather, and yeah, looking forward to next year's event. As you all know, the travel center is open. We've gotten a lot of nice comments on that. It's really a nice facility. Hopefully you've all gone out there and checked it out for yourself. And even better news, they started the hotel, foundation or the dirt moving out there this last week. So he's committed to get that going as well. So that's good news. All right. I don't believe we have any old business, new business. Fiscal year 2025 budget preparation presentation. So Anne Marie.
Hi, I'm Anne Marie, and I haven't met all of you. I'm the part-time consultant, treasurer, finance director, whatever term you want to use. So I'm just going to kind of go through like a high-level overview of where we are with our 2024 budget. So our fiscal year runs from April 1st through March 31st, so we're towards the end of our 2024 budget. I know you have the presentation, so I'll go kind of quick. If you have any questions, just let me know. So revenues to date, we've collected about half of what we budgeted, a little bit more than half. Our biggest revenue source is obviously taxes of various types, both those locally imposed, like our utility taxes and our property tax, as well as those that are state shared revenues that we receive from the state on a monthly basis. Sales tax is the biggest one of those. We're about $1.2 million in sales tax, followed by income tax that we receive on a prorated share. Licenses is kind of the next little category in that revenue chart. The majority of the licenses come in January and February when we sell our vehicle stickers. That's in that category. Our other income includes our investment income and just a really small amount of grants, but the investment income is huge. I think our investment income in 2023 was like $7,000, and now we're at $185,000. We have a few months to go, so that's pretty good. We did a really good reorganization of how we manage our investments, thanks to the mayor pushing really hard. So that's a great number, and hopefully we'll actually hit that budget number of $300,000. So any kind of questions overall on revenue? I just kind of broke out our tax revenues a little bit on the next page, just to kind of give you an idea of where they come from. We levy taxes, and then we get a small amount from the township, the road and bridge tax that they collect. We get 50% of that. Sales, use, and cannabis taxes, we get those on a monthly basis, but they're 3 months in arrears. So we are running a little bit low, but this only includes 5 months worth of revenue. So once we come to the end of the fiscal year and we accrue that amount at the end, I think we're gonna be fine. Income tax, we're well over the amount budgeted, which is awesome. Hopefully that will continue. And then our utility taxes are also a little bit low. They do lag a month, so we haven't collected November yet when it started to get cooler. So our gas tax might go up a little bit. So, but we should be fine on all of those, at least coming in near budget, if not over budget. I broke down our sales tax on the next page just to kind of give you a general idea of where our sales tax comes from. So this is the 1% sales tax that's collected on all retail sales in the village, including titled vehicles. So obviously you can see that the majority of it does come from our vehicle sales. So we want to take care of them. I know we have rebates with them. I think those rebates might be expiring in the next few years, which will be nice. Then we won't have that expense, and all that sales tax will stay with us. Yeah, that's it. Moving on to expenditures, $4.3 million of our general fund expenditures. This is just our general fund, which is our main operating fund. All of our personnel costs are in that fund. All of our kind of regular operating and maintenance costs are reflected in this fund. The 2024 budget did have a planned drawdown of our reserves, our fund balance. So I don't think we'll exceed that. Hopefully, actually, our revenues are going to exceed our spending, and we won't draw down any fund balance, but we'll see. Like I said, it does reflect all of our personnel costs, including salaries, benefits, pensions. Most of the departments all of the departments actually are trending at or below what they budgeted to date this year, so that's good. And then the police department budget did include some capital items. They purchased a few vehicles. Until this year, a lot of the capital was budgeted in the general fund. Starting with last year's budget, we moved all of our capital spending to our capital fund, so that the general fund truly is operating. The vehicles are in there just because the vehicles really relate to operations, because the police obviously couldn't operate without them. Any questions? Okay, these are just a few other of our bigger funds. Motor fuel tax is another state shared revenue that we get. We can only spend it on certain things. As Bob mentioned, he's putting together the report of what we're gonna spend it on next year. That has to be filed with the state and approved by the state before we can actually spend it. We do transfer that money over to our capital fund, and it does fund our annual road program. That is something new that we instituted last year also. Our business development fund is much like our general fund sales tax. It's collected 3 months in arrears. It's 1%. It's on retail sales within our business district, and that revenue has to stay in the business district fund and be spent on expenses related to business development within the district. Expenditures in that fund are on the downtown development. We do have a very large grant that is funding that. We haven't drawn on that grant any yet. I don't know that our agreement is totally finalized yet, but as soon as it is, we'll draw on that grant and start being reimbursed for the spending that we've incurred. Next page, so this is just a couple more funds. Our capital improvement fund, like I said, that's where we moved all of our capital. So all of our street projects are in that fund, all of our storm sewer, any larger building projects would be in that fund. It's funded by permit fees that we transfer from the general fund as well as the motor fuel tax fund money that we transfer. It reflects all the engineering costs as well as the construction costs of any of the projects that we budget for. Our TIF 2 fund is where the travel center is located within that TIF. We have the road project going on out there. We issue bonds for that, so that's the funding source. And we're just spending on that as the invoices come in from the developer. I think we've spent down the majority. I think we have less than a third of our bond proceeds left to spend. So we've incurred a lot of costs on that. Yep. Okay, that's the TIF fund, and what's gonna happen over time, I just wanna touch on one little thing. What's gonna happen over time is increment's gonna start being generated by that fund because it's a TIF fund. So all that increment will stay within that fund. We are paying the interest on the bonds out of our general fund for the first 2 years, but we set it up as a loan as opposed to kind of a transfer. So the village will be able to recoup, I think it's like $280,000, that we'll be able to recoup from that fund once that increment starts being generated, which hopefully is gonna start soon, and now with the hotel, that'll make it even better. So hopefully that happens soon. Our 2024 budget schedule, it pretty much follows the same schedule as last year. So this is our kickoff meeting. Amy and I will meet with the departments next week and hand out all of the budget documents to them. They'll start putting together their line item budgets. Amy and I work on the compensation budget, and we work on the revenue side together to put that together. We'll get those completed budgets from the departments in early January, and we'll meet with the board at the end of January to talk about capital. And then in February, you'll be provided with the full budget by line item by department for consideration. Hopefully, we'll pass the final budget, I have a little typo there, on the March 13th board meeting, and then we'll file that ordinance with the county as required by state statute. Planning for the 25 budget, another typo. We have a general fund policy that was passed a few years ago that we're gonna keep at least 30% of our ensuing year's spending as reserves in our general fund. It's called fund, I call it fund balance, it can be called reserves, there's different names for it, but it's just like our savings account. So we're always gonna try to keep that 30% within that fund. We're well above that at this time. We're at 2.5 times our budgeted expenditures, which is fantastic. But it's not a huge amount of money, so I think the village like Peatone needs to have that kind of reserves on hand. I did mention a couple minutes ago that we'll get that money back from the TIF for those interest payments that we have. So I'm assuming we'll be able to just put that back into the savings and grow our fund balance a little bit. So we look at that as we do the budget for the year. We constantly look at what that budget's doing to our fund balance to make sure that we don't go outside of the board approved policy. Some revenue sources that we think are gonna start happening in 2025, per the terms of the development agreement for the travel center, there is some revenue sharing that's gonna be going on. Amy and I are still in the process of estimating what's that gonna be, and we'll give that to you guys when we give you the budget. But we're hoping that that'll start to, give us some good revenues that will not stay in the TIF. We'll be able to bring that over to the general fund for spending, so that'll be good. Video gaming, I think there's video gaming at the travel center, so that tax should increase, and that's in our general fund. I think the water, I think we're still waiting for the water rates to go up, which I know is not a good thing, but it helps us because we'll get the taxes on the higher water rates, so probably don't wanna say that publicly. And then we talked a little bit ago about the implementation of the 1% food and beverage tax, so that'll go into the general fund, and we'll do the ordinance, and we'll make sure all the businesses are well aware of it way in advance. I think some of the funding, we don't really know what our capital plan is gonna be yet. We have a draft, but that'll obviously be approved by the board in the end. We've got ARPA funds that we're already drawing on. Some of it is for the Conrad Street project. I actually submitted for reimbursement on that today for what we've spent to date, so we'll be getting that. We'll use our motor fuel tax, our building permit fees. We've got the grant proceeds for the downtown development project that we'll use for those expenses. And then we'll kind of look at the plan and determine if there's any other revenue sources that we need to generate to pay for our capital next year. Just kind of a wrap up, we did submit last year's budget document to GFOA, and we got the village's first ever distinguished budget award, so that's kind of cool. So it's on their website. I think we got a little plaque in the mail.
It's right there.
Where? Oh, there it is, yeah. So we'll submit for that again, that's an awesome thing to do. I think in the coming years, maybe this year, we'll submit the audit report also, and see if we can get that one.
Definitely.
So I think just any feedback, and Amy, whatever, if you wanna add to anything, any feedback that the board has, any specific items that you want us to look at as we start diving into the 2025 budget, if you can kind of give us any of that tonight, that'll be helpful, and then we can get moving with the budget.
Yeah, so I appreciate your report. You always give us such nice, thorough reports. As far as board members go, I mean, if you have a pet project that or something that you want to happen in the village, certainly you don't have to shout it out tonight, but you can certainly send an email to Amy or Anne Marie, and put it on a wish list and see what happens. I mean, it's always nice if we can tie a revenue source to that, because we run a pretty tight budget around here, so we don't have a whole lot of extra to kick around, but certainly if you have ideas for revenue as well, that's certainly something to talk about, so. But I encourage you all to stay engaged in the budget process. As I've always said, this is our policy document. This kind of tells us what we're gonna be doing the next year, and so during this process is the time to stay involved and make sure that your voice is heard. So. Okay. Great. Thank you.
Thanks, Anne Marie.
All right. Moving on. Item F is approve ordinance for the levying and assessing of the 2023 taxes for the village of Peatone, Will County, Illinois. This would be ordinance 23-16. So this is our annual levy for property taxes, and I know, Anne Marie, as long as you're here, why don't you explain this as well?
Okay, let me just get to that. So this is our 2023 levy, which we'll collect in calendar year 2024. The amount of the levy is the $650,562, and it's categorized into these different funds, the county calls it, and each of these kind of pay for a different operating expense that the village has. Our levy last year that we filed was about $619,000, so this levy keeps us under the 5% truth in taxation limit, so we don't have to hold a separate public hearing to approve our levy. We'll file the ordinance with the county. The final rate will come out once they finalize our equalized assessed value for 2024, and we'll probably find that rate out sometime in the spring.
So I think it's important to point out our EAV, which is, tell me what that stands for again.
Equalized assessed value.
Yes, equalized assessed value, so that's what all the property is in the village, has gone up quite a bit. You had from 2019, it was about $94 million, and the preliminary number for 2023 is $121 million, so it's gone up quite a bit. But at the same time, because of the kind of the tax rate cap that we have in Illinois, the rate that the residents pay has actually gone down a little bit because it's kind of spread over more dollars. So anyway, it's our taxes here in Peatone are pretty reasonable compared to adjacent communities, and I think you put a number in here that the village's rate is only about 8.8% of the overall tax bill. So for every dollar that you pay to the county, the village gets a little less than 9 cents out of that. So
Yeah, the majority of your tax bill usually goes to the schools and the fire districts.
right. So I think we've been good stewards of our residents' money, and it's good to see our EAV growing. That means we're, a growing community, and we want to keep it that way. So, any other questions about our tax levy? If not, I need a motion to approve the ordinance 2316.
Motion.
Second.
Moved by trustee Sluse, second by trustee Hudson.
Trustee Hudson,
Yes.
trustee Maravka,
Yes.
trustee Richards,
Yes.
trustee Sandberg,
Yes.
trustee Sluse,
Yes.
trustee Sturba,
Yes.
Next is item G, approve resolution for budget amendment to capital improvement fund in the amount of $80,433 in ARPA revenue and $145,774 expenditure for Ratchy Road and Conrad Storm Sewer. So Anne Marie, as long as you're here, why don't you explain this?
Okay, so the one for Rathje Road, I'm not super familiar with it, but I believe that's a project that the state did within this village a while ago.
2018, right?
Okay, and we had our local share, which was probably 20%,
Right.
and that's our final bill for that project. And this is not uncommon for the state to bill you 5 or 10 years after the project, so.
maybe we'd pay him back in 5 or 10
Right.
years.
Yeah. So this is just paying our final amount. We didn't budget for it. I think we didn't know that it was out there.
Yeah.
So we're doing a budget adjustment for that project. And usually we do budget adjustments only if it's something that we didn't budget for at all, or if there's like an emergency and we're gonna spend a significant amount, we'll come to the board for a budget adjustment. The other one is the Conrad Street project. I touched on that a little bit. We did submit for reimbursement on that. The 84,000, is that on the spending or the revenue side?
So the 80,433 was the revenue,
The
ARPA revenue.
Okay, and then how much is on this, what is on the spending?
Well, 145,774, but
But the
that's-
same for that project?
right, same for the project.
Yeah, so the expense budget adjustment is for the actual spending that's gonna occur. I think it's for the phase 1 and 2 design engineering with Robinson Engineering. And then the rest of that will be budgeted for in 2025. And then because we have ARPA funds coming from Will County, we amended the revenue budget, cause we're gonna get that revenue right back, kinda paying us back for that expense.
So these expenses, the revenue expense for the Conrad Street project are for the engineering fees that we've already incurred.
Well, if the
Right.
80,000 is what we're gonna incur through design engineering.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think the way that it's done now, it wasn't necessarily done like this in the past, but now that we are doing like the regular budget act way of doing the budget, you do these budget adjustments like
Right.
this.
And then in Conrad Street, it's a storm sewer project. It's taking the storm from 15 inches to 30 inches, so it's like doubling the capacity over there.
Okay. Any other questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve, this is resolution 23-R-20.
Motion.
Second?
Moved by trustee Sluse, second by trustee Hudson.
Trustee Hudson,
Yes.
trustee Maravka?
Yes.
Trustee Richards?
Yes.
Trustee Sandberg?
Yes.
Trustee Sluse?
Yes.
Trustee Sturba?
Yes.
Item H will be ordinance 23-17, is to approve an ordinance for paid leave benefits required for village employees and making certain changes to the personnel policy manual. So you may be aware the state passed a law last year requiring that businesses give every employee, whether part-time or full-time, paid leave benefits. And these changes in our policy manual just kind of make sure that we're in compliance with that and keeps us out of any trouble.
How long is the paid leave for?
Well, go ahead.
One of the requirement of the law,
Yeah.
it was a minimum of 40 hours, 1 hour for every 40 worked.
Okay. Thank you.
Hmm.
No motion.
Okay,
Second.
moved by trustee Maravka, second by trustee Sluse.
Trustee Hudson,
Yes.
trustee Maravka?
Yes.
Trustee Richards?
Yes.
Trustee Sandberg?
Yes.
Trustee Sluse?
Yes.
Trustee Sturba?
Yes.
All right, moving on, item I, approve ordinance for provision in chapter 72 of Village Code prohibiting parking on grass surfaces. This would be ordinance 23-18. It's in kind of, our code is just a mishmash of ordinances put together over the years, and sometimes it's as clear as mud when you're trying to look up something. So, we've always thought we've had an ordinance preventing parking on grass, but we want to make it very clear that you can't park on grass. Okay, so that's why we are putting this in our parking ordinance.
What about for winter time during snowstorms? I know there's a lot of residents that'll park their cars in grass, keep them off the streets, because there's no room in the parking lot.
Right.
In their
And-
driveway.
Yeah, and the chief knows about that, and it's,
Same with flooding.
right, I mean, we're not gonna be
Yeah.
out there.
Okay.
I just gotta ask, because I got a lot of people that live by me.
There's
that
always
do it, so-
extinguishing circumstances.
Yes.
It's not grass, it's snow.
Yeah, there you go.
We got
It's
a
not
couple
grass,
cars
it's
on
mud.
display for Christmas in yards too,
I
but
mean,
they'll be going by Christmas, so.
okay,
Make a motion to approve.
is there a second?
Second.
Moved by trustee Hudson, second by trustee Richards.
Trustee Hudson,
Yes.
trustee Maravka?
Yes.
Trustee Richards?
Yes.
Trustee Sandberg?
Yes.
Trustee Sluse?
Yes.
Trustee Sturba?
Yes.
Item J, approve resolution for planning and zoning services proposal between Village of Peatone and Kendall Jackson. This would be resolution 23-R21. So this firm provides higher level planning and zoning consultation, I guess. This is an addition to the firm that we use for our building services. This is more for planning and zoning. So this is just on a as needed basis. So sometimes Amy gets questions asked about zoning and planning that she doesn't feel, or she would, like a second opinion on it, make sure that the village gives the right answer to people who are asking those questions. So, so that's what, and we had been working with this firm when we had Safe Build, correct? Is that right, or is this somebody different?
This is somebody different.
Yeah, so,
'Cause that firm was in California and they did a great job, but I was just trying to find somebody more local.
okay.
So this person is a retired community development director for the city, from the city of Joliet.
So do we already have a planning and zoning Like,
So we had in the past, when we were Safe Built, they had a department that answered these kind of questions,
okay.
but, now we don't with BNF, so we wanted just to add that.
There's a error in the scope of services.
Oh, okay.
It says, in the very first paragraph, it says for the village of Mokina.
Oh.
He works from a
That's,
too.
yeah, that's,
I know, I read that also.
that's who he last made a proposal to.
Yeah. You just copied and pasted.
How often do you think you'd use somebody like this?
Well, because he's an individual, contracted employee and he's retired, not very much, 8 hours a week, maybe at the most.
Is he paid by hour or is it all?
It's an hourly rate, yeah, and he's very, very reasonable for what he does.
Do you have a lot of questions about zoning and stuff like that every
Yes.
week or
Yes.
monthly? Okay.
Yeah, I thought the price was reasonable.
Yeah, I think he's $75 and typical, it's like 120 or more.
Mhm.
And if it helps us, keep out of trouble,
Yeah.
it's well worth it. All right, entertain a motion to approve resolution 23-R-21.
Motion.
Second.
Moved by trustee Sluse, seconded by trustee Sanders. Sandberg, I'm sorry, mic'd out.
Trustee Hudson,
Yes.
trustee Maravka?
Yes.
Trustee Richards?
Yes.
Trustee Sandberg?
Yes.
Trustee Sluse?
Yes.
Trustee Maderba?
Yes.
All right, questions of the press? All right, any other correspondence, communication from the board? Not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion. Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, Merry Christmas.
Have a Merry Christmas.
Holidays.
Happy New